Dust off your time machines and set them 1,000 years into the past. When you get there, grab the nearest English speaker. How can you tell? They're the ones that sound like this. Now hop back in and turn that dial 1,000 years into the future. What will future English be like? Since most of us don't have time machines, how can we predict the future at all? With fortune tellers and crystal balls. Or maybe with physics, which predicts that if a certain object travels a certain speed for a set amount of time, it will cover a certain distance, no more, no less. Say your mom jumps in Zoom car and tears away at 92 miles per hour for 15 minutes. When we pull out a really long ruler to measure how far she's gone, this equation predicts that she'll travel precisely 23 miles. Great! But where's the foolproof equation for predicting complex social things like languages? This isn't physics, you say? Well, are there at least trends? Okay, here's a possibility. Complicated words with a lot of moving pieces often get simpler over time. It's not a rule, but maybe we could find more of these patterns. But it gets more complicated, because our language's look and feel will depend on the path it takes through future history. I mean, sometimes a single language branches out into a full family tree. The progeny might differ subtly from one town to the next, or they might sound totally different from each other. Will future English actually turn into an entire family? But that family doesn't have to come from proper English. Close your eyes and picture what English looks like to you. Did you see this? If your name's Professor Kotru, you sure did. The people living in this inner circle think they speak the real English. But future English could be an underdog champ from India or China or even inner city slang. Dog. Remote islands, jungles, mountain villages. These kinds of places are sometimes home to rare languages that are almost like living fossils. Will future English survive like a time capsule, giving future scholars the chance to marvel that, wow, this remnant sounds almost as quaint and archaic as people did back in the year 2014? Languages can take the middle road, changing and not changing at the same time. It sounds weird at first, but all it takes is a dash of diglossia, meaning double tongues. Thanks to a uniform written Chinese, a book from Beijing can be read in Hong Kong. But when locals from Beijing travel to Hong Kong, they find themselves surrounded by a completely different language. Will future English be like this, seesawing between a rigid, cohesive language and a patchwork of local languages? Even stranger are creoles, languages that almost come to life out of the bones of other languages. Ugh. Tok Pisin in Papua New Guinea snags most of its words from English, but you couldn't tell by listening to it, it's still full of foreign features. Seriously, they have different words for talking to one person, two people, three people, or a bunch of people. But a creolized future English, is that a bit extreme? No, we haven't even reached the extremes. What if in the wake of some catastrophe, only 3 speakers remain? Think of those last speakers out there. Or think of the loneliest man on earth wandering the Amazon. Are these the last breaths of once great languages? Meanwhile, whichever path you chose, the future of Zoom car seems pretty set. It'll just keep following this equation. Speed goes up, more distance covered. But things could go many ways for future English. Come on, imagine the sci-fi utopias or dystopias or flat-out normal topias we might find ourselves in. So perhaps, what will become of future English is not too different than asking what will become of future us.